born in the woods of the South Plains. This little omniraptor, who we'll call Kyrio, taken from the Latin word for curious, steps out to greet the world. He hears a few calls that he finds familiar. Not knowing exactly where they come from, and not wishing to be alone, he calls back. But to no avail. No matter. More than anything, he must now tend to his body's most basic needs. Food and water. He sets himself to sniffing, and almost immediately comes upon the scent of rotting flesh. However, the way to his dinner is obstructed, and Kyrio must find a way down to it. Though it was evening on the day he was born, his newly acquired night vision is sufficient enough to help him see in the dim light. Although not ideal for him, Kyrio has such a great hunger that he's not thinking very clearly about the consequences of potentially consuming rotten meat. Near the river, he soon picks up the scent of a fresh kill. However, this is his first time ever seeing water, let alone a river, and the width and movement of it is enough to make Kyrio think twice for right now. He soon comes upon the scent of meat that is more preferred to rotten, and is greeted by the distinct call of the Ceratosaurus, followed by the broadcasting call of a Deinosuchus. He pauses, unsure of what to make of the noise. At a primal level, this is completely understandable, as either Ceratosaurus or Deinosuchus could swallow him whole without a second thought. Moving closer, he comes upon the carcass of an adult Dilophosaurus. Unbeknownst to Kyros, the presence of the flies indicates that the carcass has been dead for quite some time and that severe decomposition has taken place. Kyros is very hungry and immediately dives into the body, pulling out the first organ he comes in contact with. Normally, the intestines are a rich source of fat and are incredibly critical in the diet of a carnivore, like Kyros. However, the fact that the body has sat long enough to rot robs the organs of any nutrient of value. They could in fact be a severe hindrance to him, rather than a help. Future experience, perhaps even this one, will likely teach Kyros the value of making and consuming a fresh kill, rather than going for something well past its sell-by date. For just a moment he seems perplexed. Perhaps the presence of the flies, or maybe even just his first time seeing a dinosaur this big before. However, this confusion doesn't last long, and Kyros soon dives right in. With a nearly full stomach, he now presses northward up the river, unsure of exactly where he's going. However, some primitive instinct seems to be driving him forward, northeast specifically. As he toddles along the river, he hears a new call, one that emanates from a far-off place. It is the unmistakable call of a full-grown Carnotaurus, one of the most dominant and vicious carnivores on the Isle. He soon hears a new sound, one that is much closer. He stops and listens, filled just for a moment with fright. Feeling that the noise is too close for comfort, and unsure whether it's a friend or foe, Kyros immediately takes to hiding. Unfortunately for him, in his panic, rather than hide amongst plentiful foliage, Kyros tries to conceal himself behind a tree. Peeking from around the corner, he is ambushed by the diminutive Pterodactylus. Even so, comparatively speaking, Kyros is much larger and stronger, dispatching the threat without much incident. Excited by the stimulation brought on from his first kill, and now recognizing the scent of fresh meat, Kyroos decides to bring his meal with him. With lunch in hand, Kyroos tears off down the shore, which he does with ease. While the omniraptor itself is a fictional dinosaur, it was likely inspired by the very real Utahraptor. As an adult, a Utahraptor could outsize a velociraptor by about 3.5 feet, and while velociraptors were typically faster, the Utahraptor could still likely reach speeds of about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Moving further down the shore, he hears the call of the diminutive Hypsilophodon, a small bipedal bird-like dinosaur who, not unlike his current capture, would be easy pickings for Kyroos. However, with lunch already secured, he is unconcerned. For the moment. Reaching a dead end in his journey, he must now reckon with the idea of possibly swimming for the first time. After careful consideration, takes his first grand leap of faith with much success. As part of his genetic nature, and also due heavily to the fact that he's still a hatchling, Kyroos' stamina is currently much higher than it will likely be when he becomes a full-fledged adult, making this one of the most opportune times to cross from the south side of Gateway to the northeastern plains. Catching something out of the corner of his eye, Kyroos pauses for a moment to ponder if perhaps he woke up inside the Matrix rather than the Isle. Surely not. Having had initial success in his first venture in the water, Kyroos quickly jumps back in, only to immediately hear the loud roar of a large predator, followed by the haunting call of the Troodon. He retreats back to the shore for a moment. Although fearful, the pull of his internal mission nudges him forward. Continuing through the water, he hears the haunting call of the Dilophosaurus, a large bipedal carnivore, dangerous both for its piercing bite and also for the fact that, at least in the Isle, this bite is venomous and can cause disturbing hallucinations, which could disorient Kyroos and lead him to an extremely early demise. After resting a moment to gather his bearings and to inspect the quality of his food, Kyroos moves on. Although he doesn't know it yet, along with needing to watch out for land-based predators, there's also an apex predator that lurks within the waters of the Isle, the massive Deinosuchus, a prehistoric alligator existing between 83 and 72 million years ago. Deinosuchus riograndensis was perhaps the largest predator in North America at that time. Safety at last. Throughout his journey, he has continued to hear the call of fellow omniraptor, although like his name, it is his curiosity that drives him forward, and he is uninterested in socialization. At least for now. If he survives, Kyroos will grow into a strong predator, but strength is amplified in packs, which will likely play a role later in life. Having expended a large amount of energy and finally feeling a sense of safety, Kyroos begins to feel hunger pains. Hearing the flies that are starting to gather around the carcass of his earlier kill, he begins to eat before the meat becomes too rotten. Too late. Having waited too long to consume his meal, Kyroos has now contracted food poisoning and vomit sickness, which will leave him feeling weakened, ravenous, and dehydrated. While his journey to the Northeast Plains is still his end goal, he must now find fresh meat before he dies of starvation. As with his previous bout with rotten flesh, he decides that rotten meat is better than nothing, and eats as much as his body will allow. However, if he vomits again, he could be dangerously close to death. Is it still safe, or is it too good to be true? Throwing caution to the wind, Kyroos rushes to the riverside to quench his powerful thirst. Coming across a mud pit, Kyroos takes a moment to enjoy it. This is enjoyable for him, and also serves two purposes in the Isle. Wallowing can both stop up wounds and also cover his scent from other predators. So for Kyroos, it's a win-win-win type scenario. Pressing forward, he once again hears the haunting call of the Troodon. Existing in the Cretaceous period, the Troodon was a relatively small dinosaur in relation to many others. However, what Troodon lacks in size, it more than makes up for in intelligence, tenacity, and ferocity. With a name of Greek origin meaning wounding tooth, a single bite from the Troodon is enough to cause extensive bleeding. And what's more, at least within the Isle, Troodon's bite also contains a stamina-sapping venom, which as stated will exhaust and disorient its prey. Exhausted from all the excitement, and with a still long journey ahead, Kyroos decides to rest for a while before continuing onward.